huge dogs that we call our fur babies, so that takes up pretty much all of our time.
So come on, what's the weirdest thing you found hiding in the rec center?
Oh my God, clothes last night.
Eric probably doesn't want
we
you
found lots of clothes,
Yeah,
you
goggles.
name it, goggles, we found, every night you find something, so.
You keep the cash?
I think I found like 5 cents. I didn't put that one.
Thank you.
It's a tip.
Welcome.
So we don't have Kyle Nelson?
No, Kyle is actually sick today. I will tell you, when you get the chance to meet Kyle, or if you do before you meet him officially, he makes the greatest candied bacon in the world.
Andy Bacon?
Candied bacon. We had it during Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
The Thanksgiving dinner, and I fried turkey, and everybody else brings all the sides, and he brought candied bacon. It was gone. It was delicious.
What could be wrong with that?
Improve that bacon.
Yeah, think of it.
Yeah, it was almost like a beef jerky or something. It was like sweet and savory. Yeah. Oh yeah, I could have eaten 40 pieces.
It was good.
Interesting. Okay, well, thank you and welcome to Windsor. We hope you have a successful and a long-term career here, and I
Yes.
think Eric probably does too.
Stay away from Eric or you'll get sick.
Yeah.
Just stay away. Just stay away.
That is
from
the
Eric.
best advice right
Well, my
there.
choice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move into our second item, which is the sewer plant update. Who's gonna
Yeah, we
lead
have
that
Dennis
here?
Markham here.
Dennis?
He's
Okay.
our Class A operator and manager of the wastewater treatment plant. And what we're gonna do is show you where we are now with the treatment plant, what we see coming up that's gonna need to be done to continue handling the growth that Windsor is now having. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dennis.
Good evening, everybody.
And does everybody on the board know Dennis? Has everybody met
Know
Dennis?
everybody, Dennis, or should we go
Yeah, I
around?
think I've met everybody at one time or another, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of you have been out to the plant before.
You showed us the bunker,
Good Booker Baton, so. I'm back.
100 feet downtown. down there.
Dennis, you'll have to forward it with either the keyboard
The
arrows
walls are
or
4
the
feet
mouse.
thick.
So this keyboard here?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
you're all
That's where I'm
set.
going, yeah.
Okay, so the, kind of the solids handling improvements kind of got started a couple years ago, just out of concerns I had for the sustainability of what we're doing right now as far as solids handling. So I kind of wanted the experts to take a look at it. So Orsatti Water Consultants and JV Engineers did this study for us. They kind of combined forces to do a solids handling study, improvement study. Started that in 2018 and finished it up, wrapped it up early this year, 2019. I think it turned out really good. It's a good study. It's about an inch thick, so if you're ever bored and you really want to read it, I can get a copy to you, but quick and dirty here.
David can't wait.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you better make sure you bring one copy.
Okay, so this is our existing system. So kind of the treatment facility is kind of this left half here, and then this is the solids handling facility. So right now, all these solids that are settled in this clarifier are pumped out into this aerated sludge lagoon is what it's called. And we're just basically aerating this. All the sludge settles to the bottom of the lagoon. We can decant the clear liquid basically off the top, further treat that, and then that goes back to the head of the plant. And then annually we have a firm called Barris Environmental. They come in and dredge the pond, which you can see they actually have a dredge in this picture. So they dredge the sludge off the bottom of the pond, run it into right there. When this picture was taken, they were actually dewatering the sludge as well. So they have some belt filter presses. Generally, they'll pump right into tanker trucks and then they land apply that on permitted farm ground locally. So it's worked well. I mean, this has been our solids handling system for almost 25 years now. It's worked well. Kind of the concerns I had, basically, again, were the capacity of this sludge lagoon to handle the solids that we're going to be producing over the next 5 to 15 years as it grows. So That was part of the, the study. Basically, the goals of the study were to analyze our existing system, look at any regulatory issues that might be down the road in the next 5 to 15 years, kind of take a look at our sludge production over the next, kind of project that over the next 5 to 15 years as well, look at some preferred alternatives. We kind of narrowed the alternatives down so we didn't waste a lot of time analyzing stuff that wasn't going to be realistic. And then ultimately to recommend an alternative. So the alternative selected ultimately is aerobic digestion, which is kind of what we thought the ultimate outcome was probably going to be, just based on the type of system that we have, the size of our system, et cetera. So what that would entail is basically decommissioning that lagoon, dewatering it, removing any sludge in there, and then probably just let that sit, because in the future, if and when we expand the treatment system itself, some of that's going to go kind of where that is now, and then put the solids handling treatment, which would be a couple of digesters, some solids thickening and dewatering equipment, a solids loading station, and then some improvements to the side stream treatment. So again, still pretty simple, but a lot more robust and able to handle a lot more volumes as we look at down the future. And feel free to jump in anytime with questions, but
And
yeah.
on the prior, two slides prior, there was a picture that said abandoned lagoon.
Yeah, okay.
Is that because it's?
That was basically part of the old treatment plant?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even that sludge handling lagoon was basically the treatment plant 30-some years ago.
That's when we were just a lagoon system plant.
Right. So that is kind of where that abandoned pond is. That's where a lot of the new sludge handling equipment would go. We just have to, basically it's already excavated per se, so
Okay.
it'd be kind of a simple process.
And I think in the next, one slide back, you had pictures of blue arrows with the diffusers with it, or they just?
Can I get back?
Hit the back button.
Oh, it's there.
Yep, there you go.
Okay. So yeah, that,
Digesters?
yeah,
Are
the
those-
digesters.
Are those physical buildings?
So those would be new, and then, yeah, they would go, those would be built, yeah, well, tanks, basically.
Okay.
Yep. So 2 tanks, and then the solids thickening dewatering would be an actual building. Mhm.
This is kind of unrelated to the picture you're looking at here, but I know that Kodak had their own water treatment or their own solids,
wastewater, yeah.
wastewater. Is there anything that is that still in operation?
It is.
It is
They-
still.
They're kind of similar to what we do. They also dredge, and then they dewater on site as well. And theirs is a little tougher because they have to haul that to a hazardous waste facility once
It's
they're.
more of an industrial treatment
Yeah.
plant where ours is not.
Okay. I don't need to ask the second part of my question was if there was any way to combine where they're at with our plant or do anything that would be.
Yeah, it'd be tough to combine an industrial and a
Okay.
sanitary,
And that's-
because the industrial is a lot tougher to deal with once you have it
All right.
removed.
When you said the solids go to the permitted farmland, permitted?
Permitted has to be, so, and that's another thing that the contractor that we use, Barris Environmental, they take care of the permitting process. It has to be, not only do you have to have approval by the farmer that's using it, but it has to be permitted through CDPHE, Department of Environmental Health.
Depending on what they're growing, or?
It's
Yeah,
gotta be.
I mean, we apply
Water
what's called
quality.
Class B sludge, which can be used for it can't be used for human consumption, whatever's grown on there. It can be silage or hay or, whatever. It just can't be anything that used for human consumption. so-
Anything that grows above the ground is what our sludge can be used for.
And they factor in they can only put so much on per year. It's kind of loading rates for different nutrients and that type of thing. So it's kind of an onerous process. And that process will never go away. We're always going to have to ultimately do something with it. And land application, of course, is the desired route.
as long as there's still farmland.
Yeah, and that was another concern, you know, like, as we all know, that farm ground is it's gonna get harder to find in the future, so.
I have just a general question about your facility out there. Do we have enough additional acreage or space to expand as we need out there? Or like, where do we
We do.
own? Just what you see there, or do we own
No,
more
we
to?
own, there's quite a bit of acreage to the west. There's probably 20 acres to the west of the facility. And then again, we have this area here, and then there's quite a bit of area south here as well, before,
Okay.
because the river kind of comes like this around. This, once this is decommissioned, this will probably become an A basin like these, an aeration basin like these, as part of any kind of an expansion for the treatment facility. So yeah, we are blessed with some space out there to do things with.
As all of you well know, when you've been out there, the treatment plant is above the rest of the area by about 5 or 6 feet. And so that we would have to continue to do that if we expanded into those areas to keep it out of the floodway.
Yeah, everything has to be above the 100-year floodplain out there.
Can you tell me a little bit about the digestion process? I've seen a system at CSU,
Mhm.
Vet Center, but I think it's different than what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think if I think what you're talking about might be an anaerobic system.
Right.
Yeah, this would be all aerobic.
Okay,
And just mainly because of the process that we use, it just makes a lot more sense with the solids that we produce to go to an aerobic digestion rather than anaerobic digestion would work, but cost effectively and just kind of.
so this is basically big tanks.
Yep, tanks, and it's just aerated, and the
Aerated,
solids are
and
further
then
stabilized
becomes
over
Right.
time yet. And there's a certain amount of time that you have to aerate it to produce that Class B
Okay.
sludge, so.
To the point, do we have any idea about timeline and costs?
That's kind of where we're headed. So
Okay.
cost, I can give you at least an idea here. So looking at, ultimately, you're looking at 5.5 to 7.5 million for construction, and then 1.1 to 1.5 engineering and project management. So total cost of about 6 to 9 million. I have talked to a couple other engineers that think that might be a little low. So I think and so next year what we want to try to do is get another engineering team on board, and we'll take a look. First thing we'll do is take a look at these numbers again, and just kind of make sure everything's up to date there.
And how soon do you think we need to move in that direction?
And that's the main goal for this engineering team, is to we're hoping that maybe we can phase some of this in.
Well, in the big goal for phasing, what we're trying to do is, he mentioned the expansion earlier.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to do anything twice, right? So we
Right,
want to be
right.
smart with this work, and any work we do at this point to work into the ultimate plant build-out,
Yeah.
which I think is another reason to bring in this engineering team and really talk about the end goal in mind, where we want to get, and then figure out what piece of this we can do right away, and what pieces are better to incorporate into the overall plan.
I'm assuming we're several years out at least.
Jerry, I think you said when we're at 80% capacity, we have to have a plan.
At 80% capacity, we need to start planning.
We need to be in
for-
design.
Where are we now?
Depends on your definition of several years out.
We're at, Dennis, we had about 60 to.
We're about 65 and
Yeah, that's right.
Does that include,
rapidly going up.
does that include severance capacity?
Sort of. It includes part of Severance. So Severance has started decommissioning their plant. So not only were we taking what we were before, but some of what was going to their plant, and they're gonna slowly shut their plant down.
So we'll be handling-
And I don't know that that's, so Severance is looking at two different options. One is building their own plant, and so they're still going through their due diligence to see if that's something they should do. The other thing that we talked about is they thought about, what if we just decommission our plant and send all of our flows to you? As the board knows, we already entered an agreement to take up to 1 million gallons per day. Right now, what are we at, like 150?
Yeah, we're about right around 200 now.
Around 200,
Yeah,
okay.
just from the extra that they started.
About,
200,000?
yes.
And if they completely shut their plant down, we'd probably be around 250 from them, 250.
I would
So
like
when
to
that
point out,
happens-
though, we have only been running half of our plant, and it's been keeping up with that 60 to 65% pretty well. So it was, when it was built, it was rated at 2.8 million gallons. So I think it's gonna be a little higher than that, but that's what we need the engineers and everybody to tell us, so we know what phase we need to put in and when.
And that's kind of what we're gonna depend on them to help us with, is kind of, first of all, how can we phase it in, and what would the timeline be of how we phase that in? And then, as far as the capacity of the treatment plant itself, yeah, it definitely has, you have to look at that as we go, as well as they're trying to design this solids handling. I mean, the good thing about kind of the plan, if it goes there, I mean, that's probably where it's gonna go no matter what. No matter what we did with the treatment plant, that is a really logical and good place to put the solids handling stuff. So they can kind of work around that too. I think we can definitely phase that in. But then as far as the expansion of the treatment facility, I think the first thing we're gonna do is try to create some capacity just by getting a permit modification. And that is just based on the past historical performance of the facility, the fact that we've only been operating maybe half the plant, 60% of the plant, and it performs really well. So that is probably one thing we'll have the engineering team work on as well, is getting that application into the state. You know, I don't know how much capacity we'll ask for right now or how much they would give us, but if we can buy a little bit of time by getting a permit modification to increase our capacity, that would help as well. That would, extend that timeline where we're at 80%, 95% timeline.
The reason I was asking about timeline and cost was, like Public Works Board budget for that over time, we paid a lot of cash for that, so I'm just thinking ahead that
Yeah,
someone
well,
would probably start.
And on that note, we in the 2020 budget, we'll do a rate study like we've done with Stantec with water. I
Right.
don't know that it'll be Stantec, but we're gonna do an RFP because,
Okay,
I want to feel comfortable, and I want the board and everybody else to feel comfortable that what we're collecting is gonna pay for the plant when we
Right.
do that. So,
That's what I'm doing.
when we haven't done that before, and I think it's imperative to do that.
yeah.
Are we gonna need to have a work session or a meeting with Severance about for sure what direction they're going in? Because a lot of future expansion would have to do with their growth.
Not yet, I think because we've already committed to 1 million gallons, and they're, like Dennis said, if they decommission their current plant now, they'll be at a quarter of that. So right now, it's just staff's been meeting with staff to say, okay, where are you gonna go, what's your intent? We wanted to make sure that they were caught up and ahead with the fees coming to the town, so we weren't short. And we've talked about, possibly in the future, I don't know if they want to be involved in the governance, if they're gonna really be more of a partner in the plant, and they really want to make a big investment, then I think that we would have that discussion with the board. But right now, I think because we have such a large commitment to them, it's just figuring out with staff.
So do we need a plan as if we're gonna take 1 million from them, and,
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, just assume that we're going to,
Yeah, but
and
we-
then what our
we-
growth
we-
is gonna be?
We do assume that. I think it's just the timing. The other end is if they did determine they're gonna build their own plant, that would change. But I don't think there's a high odds of that. I think the cost of going in and building a plant in this day and age, I can't imagine they're
Buying
gonna.
the property,
Yeah.
building the plant.
and they kind of purchase capacity as they grow. So I think right now they're paid up through like 300,000 a day. So again, in that sewer rate study, we'll definitely have them take a look at what we're charging Severance and make sure.
Do they prepay us then?
They-
Or how do they pay us,
they
after
are
or before?
Now, they were a little bit in arrears, and, would.
But do they pay as they use, do they
Well,
pay in
now,
arrears,
so
do they prepay, how,
In the
what's
past, they're
the
supposed to
deal?
pay in advance.
In advance.
And they hadn't, and so we met with them and said, look, we need to get caught up, and so they gave us a really big check, and I think the dean gave the board a note, I mean, it was a few
Right, I saw that.
$100,000.
So
that
they're
was
set
then-
good,
Yeah,
but
so-
moving forward,
So moving forward, what we do is we send them as monthly or quarterly?
Monthly.
Yeah, we're sending them a monthly report to let them know this is where you are, so when they start to get closer, they can prepay us again. So it's
okay. So right now they don't owe us because they paid and they overpaid a little?
Well,
or-
yeah, so they purchased up to about 300,000 gallons a day.
Okay.
and they're utilizing about 250. So, but.
So then they get a credit, because they paid for 300, then they get the 50 credit, is what you're saying. and
Yeah,
then
it's to grow into. So that's either through new development, so is they bring on more new development and it comes down the line, or is they decommission their plant more and send us more flows. So they have that opportunity to do either. The challenge with the plant right now is that they can't pay for any more capacity with it. It's built out. So every dollar they put in that plant is just to maintain what they already have. They can't grow. And so it's really kind of a silly dollar to spend in their own plant when they can actually buy more capacity than ours.
When Dennis looked at, was it about 9 million at the high end and probably actually higher?
Probably, I'm guessing it's gonna be more like 10 to 12, once all the numbers are updated from a year ago.
So our ability to fund that, I mean, it's gotta come out of the sewer fund,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's right.
Whether it's capital or O&M or just capital.
Well, it'd be capital.
I know the 12 million will be,
Yeah.
but he had an O&M number in there too, $500,000 a year or
Mm-hmm.
something. Are we funding both capital and O&M out of that same fund, can we? Or
Yes.
just- Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have this, and then we have kind of the undefined, the expansion part too, which is another big number. So, that, I think the fund balances in sort of look really robust now, but that's why we really need to get Stantec to come in and really look at these costs and compare them and make sure that we're comfortable with it. So,
This is just a quick slide, I kind of figured the question would come up, so this is a quick slide on our flow projections at the treatment plant. That yellow represents 80% of our design capacity, so, and that is with severance flows. So you can see sometime between 20 and 21, worst case scenario, if we don't get a re-rate on our capacity, we could reach 80% by 2000.
and we had bolstered quite a bit of growth in there too. I think we had.
Yeah, we did.
We had maxed that out.
That's what I mean, given their permits that they've, you know, the kind of growth that we were having in 16s, what they're having now.
Mhm.
I think we figured 9%, something like that, for both us and Sarah's.
What's our
9%
full
growth.
capacity then? 3?
2.8 million gallons,
Okay, that's as much as we can do.
and right now we're about 1.8.
And if they declare that they give us 0.4 more, then we'd be at 3.2
Oh,
million.
gotcha.
This is what you meant by, depends on what you mean by 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, again, 80% is a design trigger, so you have to be in
Right.
design
You gotta
of,
go ahead, 6 years.
and then 95% is where you have to be under construction.
I guess you made a comment about not looking at expansion, so I guess I go back and beg the question. What you showed us in those slides doesn't increase capacity, it just changes the method of treating it?
The actual solids handling would not affect the capacity of the treatment plant. It would just change the method, yeah, of how we handle biosolids.
So you were talking about a $9 to $12 million project just to change the method?
Just for solids,
But,
yeah.
but somewhere where it's yellow, we gotta expand as well.
That, yes.
Our O&M and biosolids handling will increase also because we're gonna have more and more solids with more and more growth, so.
And I think probably a lot of you have been driven by South Fork Collins treatment plant on 392 there. This is kind of how they started. They started with a solids handling improvements, and it morphed right into a solids handling improvement plant expansion, just because of the growth was so rapid as they were doing the design, so.
So
It sounds
again, these are separate buckets, but I am, and I think we're all trying to be really responsible with taxpayer money, ratepayer money. And so to the extent with our expansion that we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, to the extent that we can do that, we're gonna do that. So they are separate buckets, but we are gonna try to combine them as best as we can.
It looks like we really need to be starting to plan the expansion piece of it now
Well,
as well.
Well, we're
Certainly next year.
gonna have those conversations with the engineers and make sure they understand where we are with our capacity, and so we are doing that. I mean, the state doesn't require us to work on that expansion yet, so we're
I
not,
thought you were at 80%.
well, no, we're not at 80 yet.
But we
He
are-
said we are when you're yellow.
We could be by 80.
That would be,
in a couple
yeah, that would
years.
be,
That's next
It
year.
could be next year.
Well, we could be, that's based on
9%.
severance giving us everything, 9%
Yeah.
with both communities, and so we could be there by the end of
Could be.
this year.
So we need to be on it.
it's possible. That's, like I say, that's probably kind of the
I
worst case
don't
scenario.
think that, I think that's, we went pretty hard on those numbers to just make sure we were forecasting worst case scenario.
That's
I
worst
think
case
it's,
scenario.
I think it's more than likely by mid to end of 2021, we're gonna be kind of in that one.
And I think we have a good case to increase our capacity
Yeah.
with the permit mod as well, so
Which
hopefully
buys
that,
a little bit of time.
yes.
Anyway,
So what's your
we're gonna
study,
have to
what's the
expand.
study timeline and the information
Yeah.
coming back from the engineers? You're starting that study in January, February, hope to be done with it by spring? Does it take a whole year for that
Yeah,
study?
probably the first part of the summer.
Okay.
It's gonna be a pretty extensive.
And that's the
Study
study
designs.
for the.
And then you'd spend fall trying to figure out what you're gonna do based on what the study said, maybe?
That's right,
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the board can expect a budget request for 2021 on
Okay.
something. And then also, Dennis, you had mentioned that you really want to approach this by bringing the contractor in early, right, into the process?
Yeah, the project delivery method, and this is what Southport College is doing as well, but it's a construction manager at risk project delivery, which is kind of the way it seems like project delivery is headed. The good thing about it is it gets the contractor on board earlier, so they can be more involved in the design. It usually brings the contractor in at about 30% of design, as opposed to 90% of design, which is kind of normal. So it gets the contractor on board, it puts them in the mix, because they're the ones that are gonna have to give you, and you get a guaranteed project cost. Basically at whatever point you want that cost. Most people wait till about 80% of design, and then the contractor will give you a guaranteed price, and they have to stick to that.
What we don't want to do is spend several thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to put something in that's only gonna buy us 6 months or 3 months,
Right.
and then have to tear it back out. So we wanna make sure that we're all on the same page, and the money we're spending is, good money that's being spent, instead of
Right.
just throwing money out there at them.
Yeah, and I think there's good opportunities to phase that solids handling, and so we're not spending that entire 12 million all in one shot. I think there's some opportunities there to spread that out over a few years as well.
Okay.
And it's not like what we're doing now it's not working, we gotta do something. I mean, we can make it work.
Right, you're just planning for the future.
Yeah.
But
We're
with
just
our
taking a
projected
proactive
growth, I appreciate you bringing it to us, because this is gonna be a big expense, and, expect the best, but plan for the worst, always, so.
Yes, there
I
is
just
some
appreciate you bringing
potential
it to us
big-
now, and
big expenditures there.
start planning for this.
I think you mentioned, it sounded like you said it would come from a different bucket, the funds for expansion versus changing the treatment.
No, what I meant is, it looks like it's two different projects, because they are, that
Right,
solids and expansions, but to the extent that we can just build it once, or maybe certain aspects to each project that we can just design
Work them
into.
simultaneously.
Yeah, so they're paid from the same place,
Sure.
it's the same capital, same operation, so there's no additional funding.
So when you said 2021, we see a budget item, would that be for the engineering portion?
Yeah, that'd be the design, so at 80%, we need to be in design.
Actually, we do have the money budgeted for 2020 for design work. For reevaluating
For the
and
engineering.
design for,
Right.
determining how we can phase this in.
Okay.
And they could actually, we have the money to design the first phase in 2020. So if we had to do something in 2021, we could be ready for that.
so how does the expansion similarly be phased, but how much are you looking to add? If you're at 2.3 million,
That would yet to be determined, I think. We'd have to kind of look at that and project that as
so
well.
do we have?
They're gonna have to look at the total build-out for Windsor, and how much wastewater that's going to send our way, and then do the calculations, and that'll determine,
Well,
what
and
we
usually
put
you
the plan
had
for.
the price points for your treatment train, so you look at it and they say, okay, you can have 2 million gallons a day, and it'd be this cost, or if you wanna get it to 5, it'll be this cost.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, we'll look and say, geez, we can afford to do 2 million, price of today's dollars, we'll do that, we'll save up for the next expansion. So if it's well thought out design, we'll know what that ultimate build out will look like, but I think we'll also probably take the opportunity to not build the entire thing right away, because you'll just have a lot of plant that you won't need.
And we don't have a guesstimate on expansion, and we don't even know how much we're gonna expand yet, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, I think we know at ultimate build out, the plant will be more than double its current size. So if we're at 2.3, I think, let's say 5.5 million, 6 million gallons.
We don't have a guesstimate on that cost yet.
We don't.
Yeah.
But we have the room out there to do that.
We do.
Right, we could be moving the blower building to a different location. I mean, we'll be moving stuff all over around the
And
plant.
and generally, you don't want to overbuild and just have a bunch of equipment sitting there doing nothing. So you kind of try to project, okay, let's say in 15 years our flow is going to be here. Well, let's maybe build an expansion that will cover that amount of time. Again, just so you don't have a lot of empty tanks and.
Could we build it and have it offline until we need it? I mean, could we, whatever component that would be?
I
could
think
we-
You
it's,
could, but it's generally not a great idea to have down equipment,
Oh, okay.
just kind of sitting there waiting. Because the life
Takes
cost
the
is
life of the equipment away.
Oh, it does, that
multi
makes.
generators low.
New technology.
Yeah.
So did you need any direction from
No,
us tonight?
this
This was
was-
just purely informational and
That's right.
FYI
That's right.
and, okay.
Just to give us another headache.
Did you have anything else that you needed to share with us this
No,
evening?
unless
or
there's
is that
no other questions.
any final questions before we go on to our,
okay, so
Next
we'll plan
item,
on
or-
getting these guys back on the agenda, maybe summertime, early fall, after we've got this report back, and we've got something else to give the board. We'll have him back, and I would say while he's here, we're so lucky to have Dennis out of the
Yes.
plant. He's done a phenomenal job for the town. He's a lot, like a lot of our employees, right, they're kind of unsung and just doing the work, and,
Right.
the fact that he's managed this plant for so long with 2 people is just phenomenal, it's just unbelievable, so, I hope we have him for another 20 years.
Yeah.
I told him the plant is expanded before he gets to retire, so that's part of the timing.
Can't wait until.
Thanks for all you do out there.
You bet, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we will move on then to item 3,
Do you have it already, or do you need it?
which is discussion on the police department organizational staffing.
See you later.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's have a good evening.
You too.
Grab some barbecue.
I think she took it all day.
It'll be upstairs. It'll be up. It's up in the-
We should probably brought Paul's plate up to the executive session and make sure we had.
Can I get a copy of that, Nick?
Notice?
John, Chief.
I don't have that
Chief's
on.
got his info.
Doesn't- I do not, I do not.
Chief, I liked your presentation. Your org chart went from like 24 people
Well,
to
yeah, but
9.
I'll.
To 9.
Wish I-
It's
oops,
gonna
wrong
be a
one.
budget savings.
But yes, the budget rests. Rests.
Or administer shock.
Shock.
I think the shock would be better.
Shock and awe.
Doesn't have to worry about us here.
Shot. I promised Shannon to be quick on this, so we started. Proposing that we go from our current org chart here, which was last year, or this year, we were, if you remember, we added a third commander, administrative commander, we're in that process. As part of that process, we had 4 really capable people that went into the process. 2 came out almost identical, neck and neck, as suitable, or highly suitable. And so, in moving forward, we want to take advantage of their skill sets and what they're looking at. We're currently in our division is we have a patrol division, we have investigative, administrative, and CET is investigative as a division. So we'd like to put a commander over the top of CET, which would be this one here. So we'd have Dodds, Commander Dodd would be over late weeks, Commander Ziegler would be over early weeks in patrol, and then Commander Lopez would be the administrative staff and whatever assignments I give him. And then the 4th commander would be over CET. CET is really developing into a big part of community engagement and interaction. Community policing as a whole is gone through several iterations of its existence over the years. We've had one sergeant who tested, who I like to promote that position, or not promote, yeah, it is promote that position, who has an excellent design on what he'd like to do with the community engagement team. The reason I want to move forward with this is it's almost a cost neutral change between the commander's position and the sergeant's position. So it would be, I think the net difference in cost and salary is like $3,200 or $3,300. So there is no cost to making the change if we go in this direction. It gives us the ability to control our department's employees as far as their span of supervision. It's an excellent division now. We have a very, very young force. We have one young lady's been here 2 years and was able to bid number 6 in the bid rotation for shifts that she wants to work. So you're talking about a department that really has a lot of tenure, almost 3 to 5 years or less. So it's we need a lot of extra supervision and mentoring. And this is an excellent opportunity to mentor our up-and-coming staff and create capacity. In the future, we'll probably be looking to go to a deputy chief position, and this will give us some added ability to draw from some very valuable candidates.
And Chief, I just want to add a couple things. One is, I think that cost obviously matters, but you know, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, you know, really the responsibilities of this position, you really think better aligned with the commander?
Yeah, very much so, because what they're asked to do for the CET commander is almost run the entire division by themselves and almost autonomously, and it encompasses investigations, the drug task force, and all these other entities out there that really require a lot of hands-on supervision.
And then the second thing I want to point out is, you know, the board, we talk a lot about the organization, and I hope to continue those conversations, you know, during my tenure here, because I think it's good for department heads and leaders to always look at their teams and say, am I doing the best outcomes with the team that I have, and should I reorganize? But I would say this right now is a proposed organizational chart for 2020. I mean, if, you know, Chief is going to continue to look at this, and if things change and all of a sudden in 2 years it makes more sense to go back to 3 commanders and change the sergeants or have a deputy, I mean, I think he's going to continue to take a look at this. So I think it's important to point out that right now this is the organizational chart that he thinks is going to best serve the PD. From a cost standpoint, it's pretty minimum. I think that the position and the promotion is, you know, consistent with commander duties, and, you know, we're not locking ourselves into just having 4 commanders forever. You know, in a couple of years, there's maybe 6 commanders, or maybe 2, or, you know, really at that time it's going to be whatever chief thinks delivers that same organizational readiness.
Yeah, we always want to evaluate. If we lose a commander or anybody else, we always evaluate the need and how it's worked. We had this similar situation a number of years ago. We had 3 lieutenants. When 1 lieutenant retired, we reevaluated and went down to 2, and that worked for that structure at that time. So again, we're in a position to make a change. It is almost cost neutral, and it is very beneficial to the department.
Chief, could you talk a little bit more about what the CET team encompasses?
Okay, they're our community engagement team. They have investigations, so we have detectives that work criminal investigations. That's from, you know, burglaries, frauds, to sex assaults, to a variety of crimes that go right into investigations. They're also what we call CET detectives, or engagement detectives, and they work on a variety of projects, whether it's pattern crimes, a problem. So we have a problem in burglaries and new home constructions that will target that. They're also involved in community projects such as Labor Day and 4th of July and those other engagement projects there. So, and as part of the new plan we plan on rolling out in 2020 is there'll be a lot of other community projects generated towards new programs we haven't undertaken in the past.
And we have a detective or 2 detectives?
It's 2 detectives.
Two detectives, that's the team?
No, there's two.
There's a task force really within that.
There's two detectives, two CET detectives, so they're assigned to, basically, they do a lot of proactive enforcement.
That's what I thought. Okay.
We have the drug task force person assigned into there,
Okay.
and also the
Okay.
property evidence personnel are operated under that title.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, so there's 4 total detectives
Well, 2 general detectives and 2
assigned to specific units?
Yes.
And how soon would you make this reclassification? Immediately?
It would be in the new year.
Oh, you'd start it like January 1?
Yeah, it'd be 2020.
Where I was going with my question was, investigation, I'm assuming takes a lot of time. I'm not a professional police officer, but I'm just wondering if we have adequate staff there.
Right at the moment, right at the moment, I would say we're understaffed there because we've had a couple of unfortunate incidents and staffing shortages, so we're a little light there. We've actually had to pull from there into patrol. So as we move into 2020, we'll be backfilling those positions and taking some new assignments.
And we work cooperatively with other jurisdictions too, when there's like a drug task force, that's not just us, that's a regional and probably some.
There's 2 drug task force, one in Laramie County, one in Will
Okay.
County. And so, and we do work collaboratively. We're part of several groups called the Battle Group, Frog, and others. And we're actually, one of our plans for the 2020 is to work on engaging the FBI and other agencies in the I-25 area into a patterns of crime group that will meet on a regular basis to take on some of these criminals. They're all very, very transient in nature, so a lot of the crimes they're committing in Windsor, they'll commit a trespass in Windsor, and they'll commit frauds in Loveland, Fort Collins, Longmont, all other regions of the area. So the ability to work together in a collaborative makes it a lot faster.
And not organized crime, to speak of.
Well, crime is very disorganized, but no. That white collar, the heavier crimes, there is a task force the FBI does have that looks directly at that. We don't have anybody assigned to that task force.
Chief, do you have this box that says 4th Commander? Do you have someone in mind for that spot? You do. Okay. And then, so I'm looking above the CET program currently, looks like it's under Sergeant Shainline?
Yes. Sergeant Shainline is being shifted over to the traffic safety unit, which is probably going to take on another change of name. The name itself is what they're encompassing, more of a safety unit. And then Sergeant Lopez is being promoted to the administrative commander.
So in today's org chart, where does that admin staff other function appear? Or is it just kind of a piece of a whole bunch of?
Well, the way it doesn't right now, it currently exists under passed out under the other staff members, Commander Dodd, Commander Ziegler, Sergeant Lopez, and the sergeants all take pieces and pies of it.
Yeah. I'm sure they will be happy to hand off the administrative stuff.
There's a lot of it, and the unfortunate part is the regulations and stuff are very laborious, so.
So you just need board's consensus? that
Well,
we
yeah,
want
so
to
this
move
wasn't
forward with this?
requested, I mean, normally this would have been something that we'd requested during the budget process. And honestly, I think the chief going through the interviews with the sergeants and seeing the potential of 2 that really just did outstanding for commander. And thinking deeply, again, as you should, thinking, geez, here's even a better way to do this with the team. So we wanted to obviously let, full disclosure for the board, let you know, but, again, I would like to just proceed and tell the chief, go for it. I don't think it's gonna be a budgetary concern really, because again, once you're a commander, you don't qualify for any overtime or comp time. So, with these leadership positions and the time involved, obviously a lot is generated. So I think that it's gonna be a neutral cost to the town when everything is said.
Okay. Is it the board's consensus to agree for our moving of ahead?
Not that we're voting.
Okay. No, we're just getting a consensus. So I think that there's a strong consensus to move forward with what the request has been presented this evening.
And so, Mayor, I did hope that we could jump upstairs and do the.
Kernberg, yep.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions with the future meeting.
Future meetings, anybody have a question about future meetings? So take about 5 minutes, but be up there at about 10 till, 6, 7 till.
Oh, are you part?
We're gonna do current again.
You know, Barry from.
Yeah, 'cause we have an executive session after.